Welcome to the Republican Professor. This morning we have with us Michael Rectenwald. Did I say your name right?
Yes, Rectenwald.
Okay. Joining us from Texas, we have Curtis, and I'm in the frozen state of California. I have shorts on, but I had to put some long sleeve, a long sleeve shirt on today because it's so freezing. And Michael, where are you at? Where are you joining
I'm
us
in
at?
Pittsburgh right now.
Okay, so it's probably pretty warm there. It's probably what, 80?
No,
85?
not quite. It's 50, probably 50 or at the highest right now.
Well, that's not bad. Well,
Yeah.
we had we get Imprimis, Hillsdale's free monthly newsletter. I think it has like 6 million people on the mailing list. And the last Imprimis was this thing called the Great Reset. And we have the guy on, we have him on. And his background is there for you. Ph.D. Literary Cultural Studies from Carnegie Mellon. Has taught at New York University. Where's that at?
NYU.
Is that it's in New York? Okay.
Of course, yeah.
That would make sense. Okay. Duke University, I've heard of that one. North Carolina Central, Carnegie Mellon, Case Western. He has a lot of teaching experience. You taught at NYU for over a decade, right?
11 years, yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What was it like teaching at NYU?
The teaching wasn't bad at all. I enjoyed the teaching. Students are pretty good. I mean, they weren't like Duke students.
Okay.
They weren't as academically scholarly type students. They were more cosmopolitan, creme de la creme, rich kids from all over the world.
Not entitled at all.
Not at all. And they were, but they were still good students. I had no problem with the students at all. It was the administration that I ran into problems with.
Yes.
Other faculty.
The administration is woke there, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Did you feel pressure to inflate grades there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Entirely. Yeah. It's
what form does that pressure take on you for a faculty?
Well, what it is I was a full professor when I left, but
cool.
Nevertheless, I was on a contract basis. They had a weird,
tenure?
What's that?
No tenure, but full-time?
Yeah, full-time, full professor. They have rank, but no tenure.
Okay.
The pressure comes in the form of evaluations, student evaluations.
Yes.
That's right.
So is it like, do you feel like it's a popularity contest and it's a race to the bottom, or what is it?
Not exactly a race to the bottom. You have to be able to, if you're a good teacher, and I was very rigorous with my what I made the students do.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I enjoined them to engage in rigorous discourse and writing, and so I made the classes very difficult in terms of the content, but then I graded softly.
Yes. Okay. What kind of courses did you teach there?
I taught, well, my background it says literary and cultural studies, but actually I did my dissertation in the history of science, British science, 19th century British science and culture. So I taught some courses in literature and science, connections between literature and science in the 19th century. I taught some history of science, taught a course on secularism. I taught academic writing as well.
What was your teaching load?
3-3.
3-3. Okay. And did you write in the summer, or did you teach in the summer?
No, I didn't teach. I wrote. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have lots of books that it seems like you have at least 3 books out there. I saw the Google
I have 11.
11. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I was you have this great title, the Google Archipelago. Anybody that knows Alexander Solzhenitsyn would know that as a play off of the Gulag Archipelago, which uh, is an account of Soviet atrocity, Marxist
Right.
atrocity, and you've appropriated that for what's happening with our woke big tech, and I
Right.
thought that was very interesting. What's the thesis of that book, and how did you come up with that?
The thesis is that big tech, or what I call big digital, actually,
Okay.
is the leading edge of a new corporate socialist order.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that they are the communications and ideological apparatus of that order.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're the enforcers of the ideology, and they are the leading edge in establishing this kind of woke monopolies, really.
Woke monopolies.
Yep.
Who do you who in your estimation, who's driving it? Is it being driven politically? Is it being driven globally? Is it being driven by big digital itself?
It's big. It's called it's political capitalism.
Okay.
It's a way of politicizing the market in an effort to create cartelization and to eliminate competitors. And it's being driven, I would say, well, it's a very strange amalgam of forces. You have big tech itself, which is, I think, leftist and authoritarian in character. And then it's being fueled, of course, by the left on the ground. And, you know, I would say that the interest there in the politics is to create a particular political capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like as I try to explore, I read your excerpts from your Google Archipelago. I'm a big fan of Solzhenitsyn, and I've often thought, we need something like the University Archipelago written.
Yeah.
Because these accounts of how the social pressure, I guess, but it seems like there's so many things that come together.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to come up with the simplest explanation, but it seems that there's something much bigger than any one government, any one state. There's something huge going on. The World Economic Forum is this ubiquitous type of organization people don't know a lot about.
Right.
I think the UN plays into it, but
yeah,
how do you sort out the complication and come up with a simple explanation?
Well, I tried to do it by virtue of seeing what the function of all this was. For example, what is the function of wokeness? Rather than just analyzing wokeness, and which others are doing, like James Lindsay and others, I tried to determine just how it works and to what end does it operate. And I did a lot of historical reading and basically in other political capitalist ventures, starting in the late 19th century. Actually, even a little bit earlier than that, with different players like Bellamy and Gillette and others who have attempted to establish this kind of corporate socialism where You have a kind of corporate oligarchy on top and a kind of equality on the bottom. Of course, this is equality in a static sense and kind of what I call, actually existing socialism, right?
Mm.
After the dissidents, as the way they called the Soviet Union, it was actually existing socialism
Oh,
on the
interesting.
ground. So you can see now whether these elitists actually propagated woke ideology or what, they certainly at least have appropriated it and used it to their ends. I'm not sure if I can say that they propagated it from the start, but it is being propagated from academia. So, what is the intellectual class, as Murray Rothbard put it? They effectively are the ideological agents of the state. And so what they do is they propagate the narratives, the ideology that the state wants issued. And
let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about your Great Reset piece, what the thesis of it is. And I know, so I'll let you take the lead on that. We'll ask clarifying questions. Of course, you want to get the Hillsdale piece. It's available online. You can sign up for it. It comes in a physical form. The Golden Gate Bridge is blocking your Hillsdale piece. I sense a conspiracy there. Obviously.
It's your backdrop,
anyway, yeah, exactly. But it appeared in the December 2021 Imprimis. This is a publication of Hillsdale College. You can get it for free. It comes in your mailbox. 6.2 million readers monthly. This is volume 50, number 12. It's available online as well. What inspired that piece and what's it about?
Well, everybody's been bandying this idea around, and I wanted to try to explain just what it is, to dispel the idea that it's a conspiracy theory. After all, that phrase is used to indict anything that might explain the narrative from a different standpoint. That may give a different explanation for what's going on. So,
okay.
First, talk about that question, whether it's a conspiracy theory only, and then delve into the actual agents involved in what they're saying and what they're trying to do and what they are accomplishing, which is a tremendous amount. What they are trying to do is institute, first of all, stakeholder capitalism, as it's called. And that is Klaus Schwab's baby. As far as I can tell, I've tried to trace it anywhere else and I can't find any other origin. And I believe he first introduced the idea in his 1971 book, Management and it's Mechanical Engineering or something like that. It's a weird title. Doesn't seem to say much about all this, but it does. He introduces the stakeholder model in that book. And with the founding of the European Management Forum in 71, at the same time as he published that book, he started bandying this idea about stakeholder capitalism around. And the stakeholder capitalism is capitalism where the corporation or the business is not producing for profit particularly, but to satisfy value, quote unquote, for all of its stakeholders, which include workers, customers,
right,
the community, society at large, and the environment, the planet.
Yeah.
So
right.
what it comes down to is the stakeholder is what this model means is that all these businesses are supposed to reorient their companies in terms of this stakeholder model and put profit as a more or less not necessarily a subsidiary value, but a corresponding one, but with not the primary object. Of course, this of course contravenes Milton Friedman's essay. The
right.
the purpose of a corporation or of a business is to make profit.
Well, yeah,
Well,
that it just substitutes shareholder for stakeholder, and you define stakeholder as anybody who could conceivably be affected by the decision that you made in the boardroom.
exactly, anybody. So
Right.
if you're a global corporation, that's anybody in the whole world.
I taught in business departments for about a decade, business ethics and public policy. It's in all the business ethics books. So, yeah, that's very well. Yeah. I put it under the scrutiny in my classes, but I don't know what other professors were doing.
I've gotten some people that another business ethics professor sent me an essay where he scrutinizes it pretty much. And the point is that it turns out to be a total a complete central planning
Mm.
paradigm where you have, they're dictating to corporations what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to produce, what materials they will use, what their carbon footprint is, what's the constitution of their board in terms of identity, what's the constitution of their management, all that.
Right.
They just want to control every aspect. So this is a big central planning, dictatorial, totalitarian, because they want to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say they,
well,
I'm
saying that here's what happened.
Okay.
The World Economic Forum, in conjunction with the UN, has propagated these ideas, and they have been taken up by over 1,000 corporations now, and 4,700 banks and asset managers. So asset management firms, like BlackRock Inc. and Vanguard and UBS and State Street and all that. So this is being forced on the public, but also on the corporate world. And it really is.
Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question there?
Not at all.
Let me do a little friendly pushback on that, just a little bit. See how you respond. As someone that was in the trenches in LA, in the Cal State system at Pepperdine and Malibu, teaching business ethics and public policy, I know what it's like to be a professor in that situation, teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I had quite a bit of academic freedom, I'll admit, even though at least at Cal State, my bosses were all totally Democrat people. I don't know how far down the Marxist trail they were, but they were definitely leaning on that side. And I interpreted the stakeholder stuff to be, and a lot of people think business ethics is a contradiction in terms. And so it's an attempt to square the circle because you feel bad, or I don't know. And so people come up with stakeholder, but so that's like I would say maybe a bottom up explanation. Like maybe a lot of people just feel like business ethics is a contradiction in terms, and they're just trying to feel better about what they do for a living, capitalism.
That could explain it.
Okay.
That would explain it if it weren't for the fact that this is having real implications. And not only that, it isn't okay. Everybody knows that for a corporation to succeed, they have to have a good relationship with their customers. Yes. They have to have a good relationship with their workers, or they'll lose them to other competitors. They have to have some sort of stewardship of their community in the sense that they might, donate to certain causes and
right.
show up to show their caring concern for different issues in the society. This is all perfectly compatible with capitalism as such, without putting any prefix on it. Right. What they're doing here is this gets into the level with the ESG, with the Environmental, Social, and Governance Index. This is the guiding principle now, and the metric for judging these corporations along these lines. And this gets into vast interventions in the companies and how they operate. And it's not exactly state, it's statist. It is statist intervention, but it's not the state as such. And what they're trying to do is get out ahead of state regulation so that when state regulations come along, they'll already be abiding. Because the sense is that the regulations are coming. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a businessman anticipating what's coming and trying to stay ahead of it is actually, so this overregulated society that we already are in is kind of unintentionally driving this behavior of business owners.
Go back to my business classroom. I remember every semester I was there, every day I showed up to work, I was like, thank God these kids have me for a professor, because they're so lost. Business majors are so lost. And about half of them get it after they have the class, but the other half doesn't seem to be salvageable, for lack of a better term. And then I think, well, they're graduating. This is the kind of people we're squirting out, the managers, the entrepreneurs. And on a massive level, they're only getting, not my view, but whatever crap, they're just overwhelmed with it. And I think over time, that is who's running businesses. And I think the universities are driving a lot of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good theory. I mean, I've read some theories that, look, the business, business is not that far from the sociology department, and, the professors in business are fraternizing with them, and they're fraternizing with the humanities scholars, all of whom are leftists generally.
Yeah.
And I
that
wouldn't even
itself needs to be explained. What in the world? What's your explanation for why the universities are so monolithically to the left?
Well, first of all, the function of academia is largely as a, for the leftist, for the intellectual class, I should say. Yeah, it's largely to serve as an ideological apparatus to support state interests and state objectives. So you're going to get a lot of statists, in effect, in the academic world to begin with. So, and then Marxism is the most statist of all ideologies. So you're going to get a range between various types of statists.
Okay.
Beginning with simply like Keynesian types, and then going all the way to straight up Marxists. So I think that's why. And then how they did it is by virtue of simply the hiring process, and then of course all the indoctrination that goes on inside. Hiring has been tilted to the left forever, and I saw it operating myself in academia. I saw, starting in graduate school, I saw graduate students, Ph.D. students, thrown out of the departments because they were conservative. Wow. Literally said, you can't work. If you're in a PhD program, you have to find somebody that'll work with you to do your dissertation.
Were you on the left at that time?
Oh yeah, I was a Marxist.
So you're noticing this as a Marxist?
I was noticing this as a Marxist.
And did you approve of it?
No, I don't approve of that.
Okay.
In fact, I never indoctrinated in the classroom, and I thought it was abominable to do so. Even as a Marxist, I just thought that's a place. If you want to build a party or something like that, you can do that elsewhere. This is not the place.
So you made a distinction between, well, you pushed for academic excellence, is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely.
And academic excellence would imply that you have to give the students at least a shot at disagreeing with you in the your personal views, I guess.
In fact, I wouldn't even tell them what my personal views were.
Well, the bias
And
can come out in different ways, like what you exclude, how much time you spend on
I
something.
agree. So what I tried to do is I tried to approach everything from a multi-perspectival
Right.
point of view, all the different perspectives on the same topic. So if I taught, and I did, I taught a course where I treated economics, the environment. I have a textbook called Academic Writing, Real World Topics, and it has like 7 or 8 different clusters of topical clusters, and they're all approached from different disciplinary and critical perspectives. So you'd have on the economy, I had a Keynesian, I had a neoclassical, I had a Marxist, I had just all the different views, and even an Austrian economist. So I wouldn't tip my hand as to which one I agreed with, and I wouldn't spend any more time on one than the other. As a matter of fact, even as a Marxist, I thought that the Marxist that I used, that his essay was the worst and made no sense to explain what we were talking about, which is the evolution of economic crises. So.
So if it's not if the Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory, let's spend a minute on what a conspiracy theory is.
Yeah.
A conspiracy theory, the word means, well, first of all, it's a theory to explain data phenomena,
Right.
which we use all the time, and it's perfectly normal to use theories to understand the world. A conspiracy involves a postulating hypothesis of 2 or more people agreeing to carry out a plan.
Right.
Now, so this could be a surprise birthday party. It could be something innocent like that, that was planned by 2 people or more. And you come home and what do you know? There's a surprise. You're surprised, and there's all these people. Well, you explain those data by thinking that people agreed to do that, and that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But another sense of conspiracy is something nefarious and evil, and actually sometimes it's illegal. So, for example, there's all sorts of crimes that require the cooperation of 2 people, like maybe kidnapping or bank robbery or terrorism or something. And so if the data of the crime is what you're trying to explain, then you might postulate these 2 individuals conspired to commit blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's a conspiracy theory. But the way people use the term is very sloppy. The way people oftentimes just use it as if it just means false, like a false statement. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. What they mean is it's false. it's that statement is false.
One way to back out of it is to say, look, this is a conspiracy hypothesis that I'm positing, because the theory is a much stronger word than hypothesis. The theory of evolution is, well, generally accepted. I don't accept it as it stands, but it's generally accepted. So, but
right.
So one other thing about conspiracy is that it has to be clandestine, that is hidden. And so that's why this is not a conspiracy theory, because I'm not talking about something that's I'm positing as a hidden conspiracy, a hidden collaboration. It is wide open. There's no there's nothing being hidden here.
So it's more like a lease, like I sign a lease with my landlord. That we don't call that a conspiracy. We call that just a contract.
A contract, exactly.
Because it's not hidden.
Look at this. Look what they put in here. Oh, it's a small
every month. What do you mean every month?
Yeah.
There's a pandemic.
That's very much like it. It's like, have you read the small type? It doesn't mean it's hidden. It's there.
Yeah, that's
what's being agreed to.
That's great. That's very clarifying. That's great.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I think a lot of people are going to have some light bulbs go off on that one.
You know, that makes me think about like reading the research that you've done with Schwab in his 71 book, and then writing. I forget the other gentleman that he wrote the Great Reset with, but those guys.
Gentlemen, I love your term, gentlemen.
Thierry Malaret.
Malaret, that's right. These are books that people, these are small fine print that people
Yeah.
aren't even paying attention. It's not even
That's
on
the
their
fine
radar.
print. That's right. It's
And-
all right there. You just have to read the fine print. Now, there is some
Mm.
reading between the lines that goes on.
Okay. Okay. Tell us about that.
Not so much with the stakeholder business, which I think is wide open,
Yes, it is.
but with the fourth industrial revolution part,
Mm.
because the World Economic Forum claims and basically postures themselves as effectively trying to direct what they see as inevitable. The technologies that are developing and are already out in some cases, and they suggest that they're trying to just make this a transition that works for everyone, that it's equitable, fair, that it protects individual rights, that it doesn't invade privacy, because we're talking about very invasive technologies, all the way down to from biometric sensors put on your brain and in your body, to implants in the brain, to nanotechnology in the brain, connecting you to the web, and who knows what else.
Yeah.
So they posture like they're just trying to spare society the possible negative consequences of this, and so I put that in the essay, but the technologies themselves lend themselves to extreme surveillance and control situations, because we're talking about digital identification, or digital identity, as they call it. It's not really identification, it's identity. You have a digital identity, and everything that you do on digitally will be recorded and correlated with yourself. This concludes every click on the web, all the contacts that you have, everything you've read, all this will be part of your digital identity. That's a very concerning prospect, because this lends itself to use of that digital identity to what? To bar you from different activities, to keep you from maybe getting a loan, or going to
control you.
Well,
totally
and you're no longer even free to explore ideas.
right.
Because if you want to explore Marxism or explore Mises, now you're all of a sudden a Marxist or a Misesian. Like,
Yeah,
One
exactly.
of the creepiest things about what you just said, that the technology piece of the totalitarian thing, is that many people probably won't even be conscious, at least initially, that they aren't free. I mean, they until later, and then you can't
Right.
do anything about it. And that creepy feeling of, when you want to be free, you want to do something, and you're prevented from doing it, and then the realization dawns on you that slowly you've been trapped now, and you
Yes.
can't get out of it.
Slowly is the right word. It's incremental what's happening. And it's kind of like the frog in the water, in the pot metaphor.
Well, you're kind of like an Old Testament prophet in a way. You're signaling to the masses what they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is really what's going to happen, or what will happen if you don't change your ways.
Yeah.
And they look at you like you're crazy, probably. I don't know. How do you feel like people look at you?
It's happening. Yeah.
The way I get around the idea that I'm crazy is by being very scholarly about what I'm doing. So I try to tie everything down to sources. I try to unpack things and don't just say, boogie bear words like, the elite, and things like that.
Right.
I tried to show who is who and what is what and what they're saying exactly, and then what the implications are of what they're saying. Now, that's where
a low attention span prevents people from very carefully digesting what you're saying. It's the meme TikTok mentality. And I think that's part of the issue too, is a lowering of the attention span that goes along with grade inflation. I mean, one of the things I tried to do was push my students to have a longer attention span. If they do, then they're more likely to be free in the future, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely true. I think social media, I gotta say, has been
Yeah.
very pernicious in this regard. Like Twitter with your X amount of characters, I forget how many it is.
It was 140 at first, and I think they doubled it.
Yeah, 280, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
All that. And so I'm very dispirited by those media. I use them because,
right.
they're, if you don't have a footprint in that area, you're kind of like not non-existent. But
Are you on TikTok yet?
No, not TikTok, just Twitter and Facebook.
Okay.
And I have accounts on
YouTube,
what are the other ones?
Rumble.
Twitter.
What's that?
Are you on YouTube and Rumble?
YouTube, not Rumble.
Okay.
Instagram.
I'm talking about the other social media.
Instagram, yeah.
No, I have an account. I don't use it.
Yeah.
I'm basically a Twitter and Facebook person, and I have also those other ones.
YouTube.
No. The other
The
Facebook,
newer ones,
like
the newer ones.
The Twitter and Facebook analogs. Parlor.
Right. Okay. Can we ask you? You mentioned a little bit about your personal journey. You said you were a Marxist in your Ph.D. program. How long had you been a Marxist? Did you grow up that way? And then how did you change? What happened?
That's
there?
a good question. I'd say that in the 70s, when I was in my my late teens and early 20s, I had been an unconscious Marxist, I think. And I remember arguing with my father saying, I think it would be better in the Soviet Union. And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, and I thought for me, it might be better because as an intellectual type, I thought, there you don't have to compete. You'll just get they'll give you a spot and that's it.
Interesting.
You have a sinecure and that's it. You do your job. Yeah.
We're an artist, I kind of conceived myself as kind of a hybrid artist intellectual type because I do creative stuff too.
Oh, cool.
And then
what kind of creative stuff do you do?
Yeah.
Well, my last book is a novel, for example.
Oh.
Thought Criminal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to get that one.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna write that down. Oh, sorry to get you off. You were talking about your childhood.
Yeah. So I think there was a lot of cultural conditioning and ideology being basically put out in the culture that I picked up on. I've written about this a little bit, like the TV show Gilligan's Island, which is effectively a Marxist or a socialist utopianism, and different things like that really were permeating my consciousness. But then I never really formalized it. I went in and finished my undergraduate degree. By the way, in the process of my undergraduate degree, I studied with Allen Ginsberg, the leftist beatnik poet.
Yeah.
And
where was that?
Naropa Institute at Boulder, Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
81.
81. Wow.
Yeah.
So you had a class with him? He taught it?
I not only had a class, I was his apprentice.
No way.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
6 months.
Okay. That's long enough to get to know him.
Yeah, I got to know him.
What did you think of him as a person?
Do you want to know for real?
Please. This is a reality show. This is not
This
a
is
real
reality
reality show. This is not, we don't want the fake stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was a real, he was a phony. Is how I would put it mostly. But he was also a very irascible person, very, very short-tempered, very kind of mean.
When you say he was a phony, I mean, that's I'm thinking of Holden Caulfield's condemnation of everybody. Do you mean it in that sense, or do you?
Yeah, like when
How do
I
you
went
mean
out
he's
there, I
phony?
thought he was going to be like this, I had idealized him as this, real
Oh yeah,
uh, genuine,
Hmm.
what what was he? Genuine leftist, genuine
beatnik. Yeah.
Like a
beatnik.
caring guy. Yeah. A
Yeah,
caring
and in some
leftist.
sense, my very first impression was the guy's a phony. This whole thing is a charade. But then I got to know him better, and I got to understand more about what he was about. He wasn't really a phony. I mean, he was legitimately doing what he did. I just came to have less respect for it.
Mm.
And
Was
now I
there
look
was
at
there something specific that you have in mind that stands out as an anecdote that can help us wrap our minds around that?
which part, the
The
coming to,
yeah, the phony part and the losing respect part.
well, like, they used to, it was Naropa Institute was a Buddhist school. So
I think it's still there.
yeah, it's now called Naropa University. Uh, it was a Buddhist school, and I mean, I remember him, like, there were these meditation sessions in which he would get in like the center of the room and do his oming and all that in public, like in a way that was very much about attracting attention. So it was kind of like he was a Pharisee, if you want to put it in that terms.
Was he
So-
kind of like, so that's like their version of like a television evangelist or something, except for
No,
it's
no,
Buddhist?
worse. I
Oh,
think
it's worse. Wow.
more like a Pharisee who prays in public so that they're noted when they pray. Their prayers are they're getting their value out of not doing the thing itself, but the kind of attention it garners from
Getting
the.
attention.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And these people were all Republicans, I'm sure, right? They were- well, there was probably easy 50-50. I mean,
No.
it's not all leftists. What are you
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
it
That's
was
a
all left.
conspiracy theory. Oh, so it was all leftists. Wow, that is amazing. So you're saying a phenomenology of this, what you'd have to do it accurately, would say that it's entirely on the left. This whole thing was.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That's a shocker.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
I'm just clarifying for there's some people that are really slow to get this, and when I talk to people, they go, "Well, I'm sure Republicans do that too." And it's just like, no, I'm just describing the world. You don't understand. I'm at the level of description. That's like saying the Soviet Union was half Republican.
Right.
That's not what's going on here. You're not
Right. It
describing.
was very, very left, and then that wasn't even a question. There was no
No,
question about that.
no, right.
But then I finished my degree and went into advertising for like 7-8 years, and I was into making money. Then I kind of burned out on that career and went into went back to school, got involved in a master's program at Case Western Reserve, and then it started the indoctrination into particular Marxist and leftist thought.
How did that take form? Was that in your coursework?
In the coursework, it was just an onslaught of Marxist or post-Marxist or neo-Marxist or
What year was that? What years were that?
starting in 93. Yeah.
Oh,
1993.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I had no
you,
intention of going
that
back.
was shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that is ironic. So you were in Colorado, and then you went back to Case Western is in,
Cleveland.
okay, Ohio. So
Yeah.
you're popping around the United States.
Yeah. And then I went back to Pittsburgh for my Ph.D. in literary and cultural studies, and that was an onslaught of feminism. I mean, I had to take courses in Marxisms, feminisms, post-structuralism, all these different schools of leftist political and ideological orientation.
It's amazing that you survived.
Yeah,
Would
it is
it be
amazing.
would it be fair to say that during your your college training all the way through, would it be fair to say that most people hated Republicans?
Oh, they hated anybody on the right.
Okay.
Anybody on the right.
Would it be fair to, did you have any Republican professors during that time that you
I
know
doubt
about?
it. Not that I know of, no.
Okay. And this took what, 10 years, your whole graduate?
Yeah, well, the PhD
Or-
took 7 itself.
So this is a long time you're spending in school.
Oh, I spent a long time. I had 3 years in the master's program because I had to take a break in the middle to make money because I had kids at this time.
Oh, okay.
And then 7 years in the PhD program, which is not long comparatively. Compared to my colleagues, they were all taking 8, 9, 10 years. So yeah, it was a long time.
So how did you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in the PhD, but you know, in the master's and PhD, by that point, there's nobody that's so-called Republican or right wing or anything close to it. It's all leftism all the way down.
Now, is that just because Republicans exist and they don't want to apply there and it's a free choice on their part, or it's that they're not welcome and
They're
they
not
won't be
welcome.
hired? Okay, they won't be hired. Okay. How did you change? What was the starting point of your change? What did that
It
look like?
happened when I was at NYU.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ironies, they're awesome.
I'm so
when I
glad
was
I've
at
been to New
NYU
York City and I can actually picture what NYU looks like. I remember going there for the first time and thinking, what in the world? Where's the campus?
It isn't a campus.
It's
a
very
bunch of-
different than Columbia. I mean, when
Yeah.
you're on Columbia, it's obviously it's a campus, but then NYU, it's like, wait, hold on a second. Am I
Right.
lost
They
here?
just bought a bunch of buildings all over town. That's
Yeah.
basically it. And put their banner up wherever they had a building. They are the largest real estate holders in the city, by the way. It happened when in 2016. First of all, I started to get a lot of problems with colleagues there. I was on a hiring committee and they forced a hire that I thought I was the chair of the committee, got thrown off the committee. It's all written in my book, Beyond Woke, where I talk about all this. The committee wanted to hire this one person because they were a Black female, and I abjured because they couldn't write, and we were hiring a writing professor. I mean, they couldn't write a sentence.
Oh my gosh.
Not at all. Like, couldn't write a sentence. I'm serious.
Wow.
And I mean, same as that judge they're putting up right now. What's her name? Jackson. Well, she can't write a sentence at all. So then, you know, in 2016, I started a Twitter account called the Anti-PC NYU Prof. And I started tweeting about the excesses of wokeness or social justice on campus, particularly like the safe spaces, the trigger warnings, the bias reporting hotline, and the no platforming of speakers. And after tweeting for about a month, I got a direct message from a student newspaper reporter at NYU and asked me to do an interview with them. And I did. I went on the record as myself. That Twitter account had been anonymous, like so many. But I went on the record, and within 2 days, I was pushed into a leave of absence and condemned by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group. So, and then an onslaught of media came. I had an onslaught of media attention, and then the whole left turned on me with a vehemence. And I noticed the totalitarian character of these people and their ethos. And I decided at one point, I'm done. I've had it with the left entirely. I'm out. And then I began doing research into the history of political leftism and in power and the criminality that it involved. And the deeper I dug, the worse it gets, as you know.
Which semester in 2016 was this? Is spring
fall.
or fall?
The fall when
so
it started.
that was a crazy semester then for you. Holy
Let me just
cow.
say this.
That was the election.
In September, I was a Marxist. By November, I voted for Trump.
Dude, that's that you
Wow.
you just gave us the
There's the title.
Oh my gosh, man. That is the most insane story
wild.
I've heard yet.
That is wild.
Man, I remember that Twitter account too. I remember seeing some of those tweets.
Oh yeah.
That was you.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh wow.
One of the tweets was a little off color. I said, this is one they called me out for. I said, Trump is really triggering the social justice warriors. Some of them may jump from their dormitory windows. We can only hope, something like that. And at this point, I had like 500 followers. None of them were students. I wasn't telling students to go jump out the window.
No.
But that's what the committee of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee claimed, that I was trying to encourage students to kill themselves.
Right.
Which was absurd.
That's because they're looking for something to get you on, and that's
right.
The closest they could get. And
sarcasm is the first.
It's a torturous reading.
It's a very tortured reading, and their whole reading was completely tortured. They said I was guilty of. They said I was guilty for the structure of my thinking.
Oh,
so
wow.
They basically accused me of wrongthink, in effect.
Yeah. Well, they gave you the substance for your book, for your novel.
Oh, they gave me the substance for Thought Criminal, but also my first book in this period was called Springtime for Snowflakes.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Yeah. I remember that book too. Springtime for Snowflakes.
Yeah.
I don't know where I saw it.
Well, you may have seen it on Fox News because it got quite a bit of play.
Oh, yes. Okay. Were you on Tucker or something?
I was on Tucker, but I was also on Fox and Friends many times. And one time they put the book as the background for the whole stage. And it was,
that's awesome.
The cover was, was spread across the whole stage in the background. And that day, the book went up to like number 50 on all of Amazon, like out of all 15 million books.
Wow.
Wow.
Fox and Friends is in New York, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have far to go for that one. Were you living in New York at the time?
Yeah.
Now, so you were placed on administrative leave. How far into the semester was this?
About 4 weeks.
That's pretty early. So someone else took your courses?
Somebody took over my courses, and they told me that they would follow my syllabi. It did not happen. They all changed the syllabus, of course. And
did you stay and did anybody reach out to you? Any student that you had that you would?
I've had tons of students reach out. They're still reaching out to this day.
But I mean, that semester, the ones that you had for a few weeks, and then they were like, "What happened?"
Yeah, there were students that were very upset that I left campus.
Were you on paid leave or?
Well, yeah, I was on paid leave, but
I was going to say, how do you make a living now? How do you transition?
They still wanted me out of the classroom. There's no question.
Yes, absolutely. Well, they didn't want a lawsuit, so right? So, how did you?
I did sue them.
I'm glad.
Good.
But I feel free to ignore this question, but I think it'd be very interesting for people. They're wondering the obvious question of, this must have been frightening for you because you have to make a living. How do you what's going through your mind here? I mean, how are you going to do this?
It was terrifying. I mean,
yes. Okay.
All of a sudden, they were turning on me, and I couldn't even get on an elevator with my colleagues. They wouldn't get on the elevator or let me in an elevator.
Wow.
And they were slandering me, or I should say libeling me, in a series of emails and calling me everything in the book. It was unbelievable what they did. And it was frightening because I was now this total pariah on campus. Not only that, they moved my office to the Russian department.
That's ironic.
Very ironic. This is all during the Russia collusion nonsense. Yeah.
As if that isn't antagonistic.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it was terrifying. And so I sued them. So I ended up settling with them out of court, but Yeah.
And was it during this time that you thought, I'm going to write some books and maybe make some money that way? And that will
Oh
help?
yeah. I started thinking it wasn't just about making money. I had things to say.
Yes, absolutely. You have a story.
Yeah. I had things to say, and I started saying them. And then Springtime for Snowflakes came out in 2018. And then I did Google Archipelago 2019, and then Beyond Woke in 2020, then Thought Criminal and also in 2020. So I'm a little behind now because I need a new book, but I'm working on it.
Wow. So being out of the classroom has freed you up to write and write and write.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
And I
Now,
write for the Mises Institute.
okay. Well, that's
I
pretty. Man, this is a 180 for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I've read Mises's absolute demolition of Marxism, and when I was reading it, I was like cheering. Yes, I felt like I was let out of prison.
Wow, yeah.
How do your kids, again, feel free to ignore this question if it's too personal, but how do your kids, are they freaked out by your change, or are
My
they?
children?
Yeah.
Oh no, my two sons have been very red pilled.
Okay.
So they at first there was a little bit of resistance, like what's happened to you, but then it was like, they started seeing that they started noticing all the things that I was talking about, like the totalitarian wokeism and all that. And then they came completely around, and they're like, this is my two sons now. I have a daughter that's not come around, but we're very close still.
That's good.
I don't know if this is this could be a difficult question to answer just because it's very abstract. But do you feel, have you been able to identify in that transition, like when I was picturing this when you said you were reading Mises, that you feel more like who you are or
Absolutely.
who you want to be, and before that compared to before being something I don't know what the word is, but something
constructed.
Yes. That's perfect.
I was a social construct.
Yes.
I was a living, breathing social construct of academia and the academic left.
That's a good title too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you just felt alive,
I felt liberated, and I felt
That's
like
awesome.
I can actually permit into my consciousness my own thoughts without repressing them, without.
Oh my gosh,
that is huge key, right? Wow, that's huge for people to hear right there.
Phenomenologically, you're noticing that you're able to have your own thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you first notice that? What year was that, do you think?
Well, it started coming a little before all that, with the transgender stuff and all that. It was being forced down the throats of everybody. And I thought, this is absurd, suddenly I was being called a cisgender hetero male. I was like, what?
I noticed that too. Like, who's making these words up? Like, what did I miss a meeting? I mean, everybody else is. It's actually not everybody else that's using that term, but they talk as if everybody else uses that term. Since Shakespeare.
Yeah. Then the pronoun thing, and even before I came out as the anti-PC NYU prof, I celebrated kid Grant Strobel's pronoun refusal, or actually his appropriation of the pronoun thing, where he put in the Michigan Wolverine portal that his pronoun was His Majesty, and I love that. And I posted that on Facebook, and I got all kinds of Twitter, Facebook backlash, like thousands of people, because all my friends at this time were left, and a good deal of them, a decent number of them, were transgender. And
okay.
I was just tired of towing the line, with this nonsense. I think it was I don't know who it was that said, and I basically rephrased it. there's no better way to determine loyalty than to make somebody repeat nonsense. Telling the truth doesn't give really any indication of their loyalty, but repeating nonsense is really a way of determining their fealty to your agenda. So I was done with that. I was done with repeating nonsense, done with telling lies, done with going along with lunacy,
Especially if they know it's nonsense, and then they know that it's nonsense, and then they know that they know that that it's nonsense. It becomes, yeah. Oh my gosh.
The emperor can only be an exhibitionist for so long.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you still are close to your daughter, even though you don't see eye to eye on everything.
She appreciates me for what I do, but then she honors it, so, but she doesn't agree with me.
That says a lot about you as a father, that you have a good relationship.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a high compliment to you.
Yeah, the father-daughter relationship is important. I've got 4 daughters myself, so
Oh wow,
that's inspiring to know that of
in
you.
fact, I just had dinner over their place last night, and I have a grandson, so that was great
That's
to see him.
awesome. So you are the Chief Academic Officer of American Scholars. Tell us about this project. Is this new? How new is it?
It's pretty new. We've been working on it, I guess, about 9 months. It's a online platform, and we have a free speech forum, but we also have recorded lectures, basically non-woke lectures about American history, economics, the internet, free market economy, you name it. And then we're creating a one-on-one professorial student forum where students can sign up to have one-on-one sessions with professors on topics of their choice. And that's still it's still in the implementation phase right now. Technologically, we have a tech guy that's building out that platform, and that'll be up and running within a month or so, I guess.
That's great.
The business model, is it donations or is it a subscription?
It's a small fee for being a subscriber, like a small monthly fee for like $9.99 a month, and then for the sessions you have to pay per session, but you get discounted if you are a member. So yeah.
Cool. Do you have to raise funds for that at all?
Actually, it's bootstrapped entirely.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We understand bootstrapped.
Are you, if somebody wanted to help you with this, they have
I'd
some
be
money?
more than willing to talk to them for sure.
So we send them your way, I guess?
Yeah, they can write me at michael@americanscholars.com.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, one of the things I've thought often about over the last few years with all of the things that are been going on in culture and all this is this idea of creating a second economy or a parallel
structures. Yes,
parallel structures. Yeah, exactly. That's right. And that sounds like what you're participating in, basically, with restructuring the university.
Exactly, just a parallel structure. I think the only hope is really competition.
Right.
I don't believe in censoring people, so I don't believe in like going in and throwing out all these leftists from the university if the states were to do so. I think we can't become like them, totalitarians, in order to oppose them.
That's good.
I totally agree with that. It's really nice to hear you say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hope that our politicians would take note of something like that, because you're right. I mean, going in and cleaning house isn't necessarily the right response.
It's the wrong response. It'll just create another backlash against that.
Yeah.
And then you're in this war with this nonsense forever. Whereas I think competition, the market, is the real key. I think the market, and
Well said.
Now they have foreclosed elements of the market, of course. But and they're trying to do so more so with the with the woke hegemony, as I call it. But there's still space for us to continue to try to exploit, and I don't mean that in the Marxist sense, niches. Exploit, I mean that in a
Right.
Darwinian sense of exploiting a niche,
Right.
occupying a niche and expanding it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's inspiring. That's inspiring, Michael. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think the next foot forward is in order to, like, more broadly? I mean, I know you're doing your work at American Scholars. Sounds
Yeah.
like very important work. What can the rest of us do? What's the next step for us?
Yeah, I think
So-
everybody needs to try to help build these parallel structures. I really encourage people to become more entrepreneurial if possible, to become uncancelable so that you're not hit with the next wave of cancellations, and to try to divest from the woke economy, if you will. Including the ESG abiding companies, but also just the whole 9 yards of wokeness. And we have to just, if we can't save this culture, we have to be a remnant for the future.
Amen.
That's very prophetic there.
Spoken like a courageous hero. In all seriousness, very much so. Yeah.
You're thinking for the long term. You're thinking for the long haul.
Yeah.
We're thinking the 300 from Athens.
Yeah.
That's so encouraging for me to hear you say that, because that's the inspiration for what we're doing here. I'm trying to build an archive, because I do believe that in 100 years or whatever, this archive, I hope, will be available for people to understand where we were coming from, what happened. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
And not revisionist what happened, but what's happening, what happened.
Right. I think it's necessary, and I think there's the idea of a remnant, and I don't mean to be strictly biblical in that sense, but I am being biblical as well.
Yeah.
Is very important in that if the whole world has gone crazy, there has to be a remnant of people that aren't, and they have to make that known and become a legacy for the future.
What advice would you give to parents that have teenagers?
Teenagers. Well, first of all, my advice is always to get out of public schools and most private ones as well. Get the students out of there as soon as possible. They're being indoctrinated, and you might even say brainwashed. They're getting brainwashed into a destructive cult, and I don't mean to be, melodramatic or hypochondriac here, but I think it is.
Well, you're drawing from your tremendous experience, and you have legitimate, long-standing experience. You are an expert in what you're saying. You're saying, as an expert, this is my advice.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. It's dangerous, and it's destructive to the social body at large. It's not sustainable, to use their language. It's unsustainable because it's destructive of the family, which is, I think, the nucleus of society. Without the family structure, you have nothing. You have nothing but totalitarian regimes completely controlling everyone. So I think, the whole genderism bull crap is all really about breaking down the family entirely. It's destructive of the economy. It's destructive of wealth in general, and it's destructive of meaning. This may be most important.
Yes.
The meaning that people derive out of life. It's demoralizing to the nth degree.
Yeah, the end is removed.
Yes. There's no telos, because they're just trying to shape you into putty for various purposes at various times, with no end goal.
To what extent, I don't know anything about your religious or spiritual background or whatever, or how you feel about it now, but to what extent do you feel like some of this could be explained by a dark spiritual presence that is real? It's not just a figment of somebody's imagination. It's not the opium of the masses.
Ultimately, I think it's explicable that way.
Okay.
I don't use that explanation all the time because I'm trying to reach people that aren't, that have
Yes,
a,
right.
yes. So I believe I'm on a mission.
Were
And
were you metaphysically a materialist when you were a
yes,
Marxist?
I was ontological materialist.
Mm,
Well, I
okay.
would say more of a methodological materialist. I was agnostic with reference to the immaterial.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, so that's a big leap from that to thinking this has to be ultimately explained by, because people aren't really that smart. I mean, that's why a lot of conspiracy theories aren't very appealing to me, just in terms of the raw dumb stuff you see on memes, but just like I just know that people aren't smart and they're not very good at keeping secrets, and it's just human nature. People are not that bright. They're not good at planning things. That's why I'm not a Marxist.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
well,
Individuals can plan for themselves. That, this is best done by the individual on their own basis. But when it comes to central planning and all that, this is overriding individual plans. And of course, that's overriding our liberty. And that is, that's the problem with central planning, is it overwrites the planning prospects of everybody else.
Yeah.
Our spiritual background is Christian, and we have those resources to draw from the Christian tradition, and there's inspiration from the scriptures. Like there's a great verse, and I think it's First Corinthians, I really should know, that says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Stuff like that.
I'm a Christian, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Very
wow.
cool.
That's a really big thing. So you went from agnostic to Christian. How did that happen?
Agnostic, Marxist, materialist to Christian.
Whoa, I totally missed that. So
well, I had another thing that happened.
Happen?
My son was diagnosed all while this was going on with the social justice left in my university. By the way, I lost my partner at the time, my girlfriend of 12, 13 years. She became woke and turned against me. She took the side of the university against me. Then my son was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And at this point, I just looked at the heavens and said, what are you trying to do to me?
Get your attention.
What's that?
Get your attention.
Yes, it got my attention, and I got an answer to that, and that was the conversion I had. I had a Damascus moment.
Wow.
And so during this period, by the time I was in 2018 around 2018, I was converted to Christianity.
Wow. For those of you listening who don't know the reference to Damascus moment, that's the famous passage in Acts where Saul, was named Saul at the time, changed to Christian from just Judaism.
Persecuting Christians.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't forget that part. Yeah, it was right after the stoning of Stephen in the narration. So that's in Acts chapter 9, I believe. So he was on the way to Damascus. That's why it's called that. Was your girlfriend at the time working for the university?
She was working at a college a small college in Carlisle, PA, Dickinson College. And she I got her the job. I turned her into an academic, everything. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But she completely entered into that. When she entered into that whole realm, she turned into a totally different person as well. And, suddenly was telling me she was this radical feminist. And I was like, no, you're not. You just think you should be one. That's,
That's a good distinction.
yeah. And she went woke entirely, and took the university side against me. And that precipitated a breakup naturally. So she was also an academic.
Did your son end up succumbing to cancer then?
No, he actually survived, and he's thriving. He's doing
From stage 4?
from stage 4. He was completely cured. Yeah.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, when did this happen?
Wow.
2018. Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of a big deal there.
Yeah. Very big deal.
He was healed from stage 4 cancer. Is that how you
Yes.
would say it?
Yep.
That seems miraculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
It is
we're-
not lost on you.
If we're
No.
pushing too much into your personal, I apologize, but this is kind of our style, is we want to leave some kind of a personal record, so it's not just ideas and people talking. and
Sure.
talking heads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all, the ideas are, intricately and imbricated in myself, so they don't come out of thin air.
Mhm.
They're connected to my whole personal experience. And so it's not like it's flowing from just like, this wasn't just a book conversion, this
Yeah.
wasn't just like I was convinced rationally entirely. This was a whole gestalt shift,
Yes.
if you will.
That sounds like a very painful process.
It's very difficult, but it's rewarding, it's rewarding, and it's reinvigorating, and you're reborn.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a community of faith around you that's helping you and
Oh,
that
yeah.
you're plugged into?
Oh yeah.
The people that maybe know what metaphysical materialism means, these big words.
My
I mean-
pastor does. Yeah, my
Okay.
pastor does. Yeah.
That's one of the things we're trying to do here too, is level up people of faith, because they don't know these words and they don't know what epistemology means. And
Right.
we're trying to help people understand metaphysics. We actually had, I think, Curtis, what the 4th guest we had on was already a professional metaphysician, PhD in philosophy.
Yeah, JP.
Yeah, he's talking about miracles and how miracles could possibly happen. So and then the very next guy after that was an epistemologist, a professional epistemologist, who was talking about the role of evidence in learning. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we're trying to do. It may kind of look odd to people. You're the Republican professor and you have this guy talking about epistemology. What the heck's going on with that? Well, it's because you got to get at the deep roots. Marxism is a materialist system. It's a metaphysically materialist system. You said procedural, which is a helpful distinction. I think a lot of people are. They just
Methodological.
yeah, they
procedural
treat it that
methodological.
way. Yeah, they
Yeah.
treat it that way for a certain reason, to write papers and stuff.
Yes,
I
that's
do.
right. I mean, in some sense, I still operate as a methodological materialist, because there are different registers, right? So some things are explicable in terms of this material reality. They don't need to be explained in terms of any other ontologies. But then in the end, the whole of everything must be explained somehow. And I
Yes.
think the only way of explaining the whole is through a higher ontology, and that is a spiritual ontology.
Where did you get equipped with your philosophical language? Was it in a philosophy major or philosophy
No.
class?
I've
Okay.
just done
picked it
a
up.
lot of reading, and my background was, when I did my dissertation, was in the history of science. So
Yeah. Okay.
and I was studying the scientific naturalists, and of course they were methodological materialists. That was one of the ways they kept from getting the criticism of being dubbed, materialist, because that was not a very complimentary designation, and so they tried to skirt that. And stick to just the material where they were dealing with just stick with material explanations in the fields that they were endeavoring to understand. And then I read a lot of history, philosophy, history and science. I took courses in the history and philosophy of science at the University of Pittsburgh when I was doing my PhD.
That's a really top program, and I
Yeah.
think it's ranked #1 in philosophy of science, or at least it was.
Yes, HPS, it's #1. In fact, my son Dylan, the one who survived cancer, is taking courses in that very department now.
Oh wow! I have a friend from seminary. I spent 6 years in seminary before I did a PhD in public law and American politics. So I'm a kind of weird, I mean, like I was studying Greek and Hebrew, and
well, listen, I was a seminarian in high school.
Oh, okay, cool.
Did you take Latin? Seminarian.
Did you take Latin?
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Oh, that's Catholic awesome. Did you take logic? Did they require you to take logic and rhetoric and stuff?
I took all that.
Oh, no wonder you're so you had a great foundation. Jeez. Did you take it seriously as a high school student?
Oh yeah, I was a very serious student.
Oh,
very serious.
You were light years ahead. What was the name of the school? Do you care to say?
St. Fidelis, it was called. It was a Catholic Capuchin seminary in just north of Pittsburgh. It was, the Capuchins are Reformed Franciscans. I'm no longer a Catholic, by the way.
Okay. All right. Would you say Protestant or Orthodox or
evangelical?
Evangelical. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're an evangelical.
Use my vaping though. I'm still an unregenerate. I'm still a sinner.
We do cigars, so we're with you on that. We like the suds as well. But Jesus turned water into wine, for God's sake. I mean, how do you let's not totally block out stuff that the Lord himself did.
Right.
So you're an evangelical that reads Latin. Do you still keep up
I know
with
that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am so jealous of you because I went to a public school in Colorado, which is why I know the Naropa Institute. But they had Latin at my high school, and I guess we had a really fantastic Latin teacher. Actually, she actually was pretty too. And I took Russian instead because I was so fearful of the Soviets. I wanted to be able to understand what they said when they like Red Dawn. Red Dawn was one of my favorite movies as a kid. It was also filmed in Colorado. And but I now looking back, I'm like, I should have taken Latin, man.
Yeah, it's a very good thing to take. It's a very good language to study just because of the roots of course, all the Romance languages.
Yeah. Well, I still may.
It's logical too. I mean, in some sense, there's a logic to it. Yeah.
I've heard it's actually a good thing for older people to do to keep sharp, to maybe, take some Latin, play chess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think we went past what you said you wanted to do, and I know that you need to watch your energy. So
I enjoyed it though. So that was why I wanted to keep going.
Well, good.
Okay, good. I was waiting for you to say, "Hey, look, I got to cut this off, you guys. I need a nap here. I'm an introvert."
No, that's all right. It's just that I'm working on a talk to give at Regent University on this Great Reset thing. So I always try to do something new every time, so that I'm contributing to the conversation and not just canned speeches. So
yeah,
you put effort into it, in other words.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Yeah,
that's
right.
great. You're an introvert, I bet, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Well, my guess is if I'm an introvert too, and I feel like I can, and you're gonna need like a week nap after after engaging with all these people. So.
That's probably right. Yeah, awesome. I have a trouble where I give a talk, I say do the Q&A, and that's basically it for me. At that point, I'm already wasted, and then people come up and want to keep talking, and I'm like, oh God.
Those people need to be trained before they go to your talk. They need to be trained. Here's an extrovert. here's an introvert. Extroverts typically don't write really deep stuff. And so it's going to be an introvert. So be sensitive. It's not like he hates you. It's just that he's done, and
That's it.
maybe
That's
later you can have a cigar, but he needs to have an exit.
Exactly.
Did you ever know Thomas Nagel at NYU? I know he taught
Oh,
there
yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. I was forced to read his books in graduate school, and he was one of those atheists that was pushing the lines on materialism.
Mhm.
And his book, The Last Word, I read in a metaphysics course, first semester of seminary. And I have had him on my radar. I've used him every semester. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was he like as a person? Did you know him
Well,
well?
I mean, I barely knew him, it was kind of like an acquaintance. That's all.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the last question I had for you. Anything, Curtis?
No, this has just been a great conversation. Great to get to know you. Great to hear
Good to
about your
get-
work. Yeah. So I just hope to be able to promote you and let more people know about what's going on.
There's got to
Thank
be
you so
somebody
much.
with deep pockets that wants to support what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to stop recording now. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thanks.